May I introduce you to Lieutenant Richard Scholl, who's going to say a couple words from the Alleghany County Sheriff's Department. Our sheriff is normally here. He's a huge supporter of our program and services, but he's out of town, so we have the privilege of Mr. Scholl.
Good morning. I'll never, to all those people that told me that I had a big mouth, it wouldn't pay off. Days like today, it pays off to have a big mouth. First of all, I'd like to thank all the staff at Victim Witness, Lisa Wheeler, Ashley Morris, and Lexi for putting on this program to just bring awareness to the victims of this community. Also, like she stated, Sheriff Hall wanted to be here. He is away at training, but he does send his regards. His lovely wife, Deanna, is here, though. All right, I'd like to thank everyone for attending this morning to speak about honoring victims. Victims are the reason we in law enforcement have a job. Helping victims is what purpose we serve. The Victims' Bill of Rights and most other victims' rights laws recognize the following individuals as crime victims in Virginia. Anyone suffering physical, emotional, or financial harm as a direct result of a felony or certain misdemeanors. The definition of a victim includes spouses and children of all victims, parents and guardians of minor victims, parents, guardians and siblings of an incapacitated victim, parents, guardians and siblings of a victim of homicide, and foster parents and or caregivers under certain circumstances. The number 0 is the number we strive for in law enforcement when we speak about victims. 0. We want 0 victims in our community, but that's not the world we live in. Everything we do as law enforcement is because of victims. Whether it's proactive police work, such as writing speeding tickets, that's helping victims because we're trying to curtail the driving behavior of preventing accidents, which prevents accident victims. Getting sexual predators off the streets obviously is to protect victims and potential victims. Making drug arrests is to prevent our citizens from being the victim of drug abuse and drug-related crimes. The rest of my time I want to spend it talking directly to victims and victims' families from the perspective of an officer and investigator in rural Alleghany County, Virginia. Everything we do in this line of work is for you, the victim, and for the family of victims. I'm not sure if anyone is here from the Donnie Kelly family, but I want you to know we have been doing everything we can since day one. We have been working with our partners in the Virginia State Police, Federal Bureau of Investigations, and all local law enforcement, and will continue to work this case until this case is brought to a conclusion. I can tell you firsthand, Sheriff Hall and Captain Scott Fisher has made this case a priority since the day we were called. Investigators have been spending hours and hours on end, sleepless nights, late night phone calls, late night interviews, all because the victims of this family deserve every minute dedicated to this case. So it makes me upset sometimes when some people say we're not doing enough, because helping victims, no matter who they are, is our motivation. Oftentimes, it's not the victims that's the only one hurt. It's the victim's family also. A son, daughter, mother, father, step-parent of the victim. Are they not a victim also? Sure they are, absolutely. Other crimes that we are really passionate about because of the vulnerability of the victims are child, elderly, and incapacitated victims. The public does not hear about child victims and child porn or child sexual assault cases because of the age of the victims. Some people think we don't have cases like that here in small communities. We do, and these kids don't deserve that they go through this torture. We have to do this because somebody has to look out for the victims and their families. And personally for me, it's very emotional to investigate a child sexual assault case and see the courage of the young child has to go through to get up in court in front of all those people and tell the story of the worst day in their life. Imagine the pressure that's on a child, not only to be sexually victimized, but then to have the courage to get up in court and tell that story. So to every victim that's had the courage to stand up and be strong, thank you. On behalf of the entire law enforcement community, thank you. When I was asked to speak at this event, I was thinking about what to say. I had no idea what to say. And this past Sunday, I was in church, and the pastor had quoted an old philosopher named John Stuart Mill. And that quote was, "The only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good people to do nothing." I can think of no better quote that best honors victims. The victims that stand up and say, "This is not okay. You cannot get away with doing this to me. You're good people and you're not allowing evil to triumph." In closing, April 23rd to the 29th is National Crime Victims' Rights Week. This is the week we publicly honor and elevate the victims of crime and make sure we acknowledge every victim and let them know it's okay. There is no stigma in being a victim. Not only is this week an important week, but April is also Sexual Assault Awareness Month. Law enforcement, court services advocates, and safe homes are here to help, and it's okay to come forward. If you've been the victim of an unreported recent sexual assault or sexual assault that's occurred in years past, please call your local law enforcement or court services advocates and let us help you through the process. Thank you, God bless, and have a good day.
Have a speech. Basically, when Lisa asked me to come and speak at this, I told her that I was more than happy to. Lieutenant Scholl pretty much nailed it when he was talking about victims. They're important. They're the most key part in our job. They're the people that we serve. First, real quick test. Anybody here has ever been victimized in their entire life? Raise your hand. Anybody that you know has been victimized by crime? Raise your hand. So it affects all of us, every single one of us. So it's a community problem, and it's never going to go away. We know this, but we can do what we can to give folks the opportunity and the resources to reach out. The story that I wanted to share was in law enforcement. You know, we all have that moment that we realize we want to be a police officer. For some, they know when they were kids. Some are a little bit later. For myself, I wasn't a police officer at the time. I worked for an amusement park, but I worked security. And I was interested in law enforcement, but I wasn't 100% sure I knew what I wanted to do. And in this particular story, basically, I was in a position where I wound up with 3 kids who couldn't find their parents. So we called the parents lost at the theme park, but in reality, the kids were, by themselves. They were lonely, and you could see the fear in their eyes and the fact that they were scared. They weren't, in their mind, they didn't know if they were going to see their parents. The theme park was large; it was huge, and I wound up spending my lunchtime. 2 of the kids were found, but I still had one that still didn't have his parents. And the one child, I waited, and I just said, "Hey, come with me while I go to lunch, and we'll see what we can do to find your parents." We had a location in the theme park where we tell folks that, if they have missing family members to try to, meet up, and that was at the fountain. And that's where I went to. And I stood around for maybe about 5 minutes, and then all of a sudden, in the corner of my, off to the side, I hear somebody scream, and then they come running over, and they were so thrilled for the fact that they were able to find their child. And you could see the terror and the fear in their eyes, but the joy that I had received just from that little act of kindness, spending 5 minutes of my time just trying to get that young man back to his parents, gave me the reward that I guess I was looking for. And at that particular moment, I knew that was, this is what I want to do with my life. This is what I want to do for the rest of my life. And we don't get paid a whole lot because it doesn't make a difference. We're here for the victims. We're here for everybody and anybody who has ever been a victim. That's our job in law enforcement. Our job is to investigate the crimes. The Commonwealth Attorney's job is to prosecute the crime, and the judge's job is to make a decision on the evidence that's there. But the key words were courage. Everybody needs to have the courage to come forward. The resources are there. If you don't know who to reach out to, ask somebody. Somebody knows. We try to promote this as much as we can. The resources are there for you to get the help that you need. I appreciate your time. Thank you very much.